let me go. Don't let me go. Don't let me go. Just don't let me go. Don't let me go. Don't let me go. Just don't let me go.
All righty.
All right.
Jimmy Jamby, Jimmy Jamby. Feel it.
You know, I didn't notice till like a half an hour ago that Kurt Metzger was on Danny Jones again.
Oh yeah, the Eat Babies thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. No, I just thought I saw some clips popping up, and I just assumed they were like recycling old clips, and then
Okay.
I was like, oh, he was just on again. Damn. Like,
maybe I'll put that on in the background.
And I know Kurt just had Professor Jiang on his show.
He's on Danny Jones. Is that what you said?
Oh yeah, he's on Danny Jones.
Okay.
And he just hosted Professor Jiang on his show.
Oh, okay. Wait, they eat children 4 days ago, or the
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Wait, so that's just a clip. Okay.
But yeah, no, he I guess he was just on there like 4 days ago.
Ooh.
And but he has his own like podcast, The Jerk with Kurt.
Yes.
And he had Professor Jiang on there that just came out like I think yesterday.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'll
watch the Jiang thing. Although I'm kind of like, it's like I want some new stuff from him, you know?
Yeah.
I get it. Like I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I know.
I heard this song.
I know, totally. But you know, that's what I feel like about most people. They have their little shtick, and they don't really deviate from it much.
Especially if you're getting success. It's like, when I play a piano song, I make $1 million. It's like, I guess I'll keep playing a piano song.
Yeah, right.
Or any kind of success. I mean, it doesn't have to be $1 million, but like if you've built a career or something and it's working, why switch it around? Of course.
Yeah, you know, show me the incentive, I'll show you the results.
Right.
But I feel that Kurt actually gets a very good discussion going with Jiang because, like, for example, the first time when he had Jiang on, he was the first person I heard him be like, are you actually a professor? And call him out on it. And Jiang admitted that he wasn't.
Yeah.
And I feel like Kurt has a very informal way of going about things that allows his guests to kind of be informal also and let their guard down a bit. You know, because Kurt is like, oh, people get upset with you that you're not really a professor. And then, you know, but Kurt, you know, dresses up as a judge and claims that he's a judge and is basically, he's like, I'm not a real judge, you know? He's like, you know, I don't have credibility and I don't care to have credibility. I'm not a journalist. I just want to say things as I want to say them, which I completely agree with.
And I'm just noticing he's drinking a High Noon on this show. Do you know what that is?
No, what is that?
That's a vodka. That's a vodka drink. It's like a flavored vodka drink.
He usually drinks White Claw.
Okay. All right. He likes the Hall, you know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe it helps him talk, you know. I can understand.
Well, that's why I want to do one with us when
I've
gotten a few drinks in me, because once I get a few drinks in me, then I really let loose.
Well, you got to be Trump and I'll be Epstein.
we should do it, man, because it'll be, I don't know. I feel like I hit a flow state. Like drinking just gets me into that flow state. I think I just normally have a lot of self-doubt or questions that I am kind of I don't know, prevent me from just going full steam ahead. But
really, I don't notice that, but I'll pay. I'm just surprised. I'm surprised to hear you say that. I of course believe you. I'm just surprised to hear you say that because that's not the impression I get, and I don't remember times where you've had a drink or two and then suddenly it's like you're a different person or something. But let's do it. Of course, duh.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm a different person as much as it's and I think compared to most, I'm a very open and like an open book, but I'm aware of the ways that I might, and especially in contrast to when I drink, it's just I have no fear of that. I have no insecurities or inhibitions about just speaking plainly. Just whereas like when we're talking here, there are times when, especially on certain subject matters, I start going, oh, I gotta say it in a certain way, because I don't want to, because I like to talk about third rail issues, and if you don't talk about third rail issues in a delicate manner, it can just it can offend or rub people wrong, or and so. But when I'm drunk, I feel like I just go. My inhibitions just get out of the way. And yeah, I just I hit flow state super easy, like super easy. So I would love to do one at some point. And I feel like that's what Kurt does too.
Yeah, maybe we should just try and plan it. I know it's probably hard though, but like an evening sometime. Yeah. Try to find an evening time sometime, especially summer would be a lot easier for me without having to worry about getting up early in the morning or something. I don't know. We'll figure something out. Because it seems like that it's random. The chances that you're gonna text me and go, "Hey, want to do one?" and I'm also free and could drink or something like that. It's like rare. So low. But if we plan it, we can make that shit happen.
Yeah, agreed. Well, we should definitely do that. And I think we should try to do it this summer. I know Steph and Odin are going out of town for like a month in like a week and a half or something. Okay. So I'm gonna definitely have plenty more evenings to do that.
Okay, well, think about it and let's try and do it. Let's try and make it happen.
Okay,
I'm down.
Okay, yeah. Well, we'll make it happen. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be fun, and because I've found, I don't know about yourself, but for me, it's like a lot of times my mind moves faster than my mouth can keep up, and sometimes I end up like trying to talk quickly to try to keep up with my mind, and when I'm drunk, it's just I just go, and I can. It's almost like my mind when I'm drunk, I can like speed read in a way, speed read my own thoughts, and so I will have like an entire progression. I guess it's almost like maybe like someone like yourself who's a really good chess player. There are certain things when there's certain progressions start unfolding, you can probably see after a few moves, you're like, oh, this is where that goes. And you can see many moves ahead. And you don't even have to, or like a karate, someone who's a master of martial arts.
Right.
After the first few moves, they know where it's going. And when I'm drunk, I can have these thought processes. And instead of having to verbatim sound out every word in my mind, I just know where it's going. I'm like, yes. And then I move on. And then I can build these kind of, I don't know, for lack of a word, like almost like bigger tautologies that, and I won't, my mouth isn't slowing me down and trying to articulate it to someone else, worrying about whether or not it's making sense to them. And if I just lost them, and am I just, whereas there are just times when I can do that when I'm drunk, and I can, it's like hyper productive for me. Like I cover so much ground in my own head, and I'm like, and I go through large progressions, like macro progressions in super quick time. And I would never be able to verbalize it. at that rate. But when I'm drunk and I'm talking, it's the closest I can come to it, because I just have less inhibitions.
Of course, yeah, that's the classic. That's typical, right? I mean,
yeah. So what do you think about the deal, the peace deal?
Oh gosh, I mean, whatever. I mean, it'll be off. You mean the 20th one? You know, so this will be off soon too. You know, and immediately Netanyahu is like, I don't care. We're gonna bomb whoever we want. You know, because I heard somebody, I can't remember who it was. Something like, Trump needs the war over, but Netanyahu needs it to keep going because of Netanyahu's got election coming up, and
he'll go to jail once the war stops.
You know, so yeah.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's why, to me, all these politicians, especially the major ones, they're basically just held hostage by the real powers that be. And if things don't, you know, I've told you about that Black Mirror episode of Shut Up and Dance, right? Where they catch some kid, like some teenager, who he was jerking off, and they filmed him. And then they're like, we're gonna release this footage of you jerking off unless you go and do what we tell you to do. So they're like, he agrees, and he goes to some like random hotel room and meets some other stranger there, and that stranger is like, are you the person I'm supposed to meet? And then they exchange whatever they exchange, and as it goes on, then they keep on. Then right when he's done with that, he's like, okay, I'm free now, right? They're like, nope, now it's just starting. Now you got to go to this next place and do this other thing, and it keeps on like progressing and escalating. Like the things that they're supposed to do get worse and worse, and more criminal, and more violent, and then at some point you're just like, all right, like whatever. Just stop doing these things and let them release the footage. Who cares? They'll have footage of you jerking off, but then you find out he was like jerking off to kiddie porn. And so it was like, oh, okay. Like, you know, you can't, it's not just going to be some embarrassment. It's going to be, you know, it's going to be bad.
Yeah. Some legal consequences. And then it's making me think of there's all these shows now on YouTube where it's like people setting up and hunting down like pedophiles and stuff. You know what I mean? Have you seen any of these? There's a number of different ones. There's probably 3 or 4, at least, like really popular ones. And they basically entrap people through messaging and sending pictures and stuff like that. And then they go and meet with them. And then basically they all do the same trick. They're like, if you'll just like tell us what you were thinking and how long you've been doing this and like what's wrong with you, we won't call the cops. And so they get them to like tell them all this stuff, and then they call the cops.
Yeah.
Like, basically every freaking time, you know. And there was one that for a while they were like, either let us beat you up or we'll call the cops, and like everybody chooses getting beaten up.
Yeah.
Which is so like weird and strange and messed up. Do they deserve it? Yes. But like, is vigilante justice the way? I don't know. In this situation, maybe just hand them over to the cops, you know, because I think in some way, at least then having your name as like a sex offender registry and stuff like this, you're going to have something that follows you, as opposed to you have like a black eye and then like, okay, like I guess, you know, 6 months later, you're going to get that weird sociopathic, psychopathic sexual urge again that you're not able to resist. It's going to come right back and start forcing you, feels like forcing you to do those actions, you know, and so it ain't gonna solve the problem.
Yeah.
Well, and unfortunately, you know, it's a mental disorder, so they actually need psychiatric or therapeutic help or something. You know, something's got to happen there, because it ain't gonna get fixed with a couple of nice punches.
Right. I know.
It could even make it worse. What's crazy, crazily enough, because then you're emphasizing the taboo nature of it, which may actually make it more exciting to the person.
I know it really is a tricky situation.
Yeah.
That obviously you want to do everything to protect the victims or future victims, but at the same time, uh, and that's why honestly, on some level, I really think I think it's important to have empathy and compassion for, I like to try to say it's like, who is not worthy of compassion? Aren't we we're supposed to judge the action, not the person.
Yeah.
And I guess, and honestly, I feel like I and I would like us to potentially maybe try to further this, is that I feel like it's so difficult to try to have a balanced and more complete conversation and humanize various different sides. Like, if you're a Republican, then you think the Democrats are just evil and satanic and commies or whatever, and anything that they say, so you can't humanize what they say. And if you do, you might get called a traitor or, something like a self-hating Republican or whatever. And vice versa. If you're a Republican, and if you're a Democrat and you're supposed to talk and humanize or the Republicans and where they're coming from, like, dude, the Democrats are going to hate you and call you all sorts of terrible names, and then you'll be, but to humanize the other side, I just feel like it's such a rare and important thing that I feel a calling to do. And especially as someone who came so much from the left, and I refuse to, just because the Democrats are what they are, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because I do think that if you look up, as I've said before, if you look up the definition of liberalism, the definition ultimately means the opposite of bigotry. So which I think is a great thing, to be tolerant of people and ideas that are different than your own. But it's just so hard to humanize these things to people that these things have been dehumanized, and that Huxley quote, that the purpose of all propaganda is to make one group of people think another group of people is subhuman, and that's clearly what's happened in so many ways. So something like pedophilia, you have, which is one of the foremost third rails, trying to humanize a person that actually has that, who is one, and right, because like there's a difference between someone who acts on it and someone who has those feelings or urges, right?
Yes.
But
one can lead to the other.
Yeah, one can lead to the other. But like, let's say, that there's someone who has these urges but has never ever acted on it, ever. And it's like, would you trust that person to watch your kids? You're going out to dinner, or you're going away for a few days. Are you gonna, have that person babysit your kids? It's no,
of course not.
Of course not.
No, because it means there's an underlying psychological issue. It means something really fucked up. 99.9% of the time means something really fucked up happened to them when they were younger.
Yeah.
That's why that happens in 99% of the cases. So there's some shit that person needs to get resolved. It's a mental situation. It's a mental health situation. It's a traumatic, it's a trauma response. There's something going on with that person. So like, no, if they've gotten to this point in their life, they're 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever years old.
Yeah.
They know they've had this going on and they haven't done anything about it. That's super irresponsible. Yeah. So no, I'm not going to have them watch my kids or watch any kids or like whatever. Yeah.
Right. And so so okay, so I guess a few big picture things I want to try to discuss with this is trying to have, like, are there people that are not worthy of compassion and empathy? Number one, which I think is no. I think everyone is worthy of it, but some people it's harder to have compassion and empathy for.
Right,
right,
sure, sure,
and
yes.
right, and working on that. And that's why you've heard of that term, like suicidal empathy. That's kind of made the rounds. I think it's more like thrown around and used in more like conservative and right-wing circles, because they view, and they view, they feel that liberals have a suicidal empathy in which because for various reasons, they are in favor of certain policies that are potentially harmful or could have some pretty bad outcomes. Like, for example, with the immigrants coming from the border, you had a lot of, when Biden was president, you had the border or certain, and you had people like Brett Weinstein, who was a liberal, and he would go and travel down there for a little while and monitored the situation and noticed whatever, just fuckery going on with it. And so there's this policy going on to allow immigrants to flood up through the border. And then what some Republicans started doing, they started taking a lot of those immigrants and started busing them to like Martha's Vineyard and shit like that. These places where, like the people like that make these decisions, the people like the Obamas or whoever, where they live. And they started busing these people there and being like, all right, you want them here? Then take them. And then almost immediately, the Martha's Vineyard type people were like, we don't want them here. and then they start trying to, bust them out of there. And so it's kind of like people that, like, for myself, I personally, I'm not like I think there's obviously, at least to some extent, some racism involved in that. Like, most people aren't that worried about the northern border with Canada, right? Right? Isn't that interesting or peculiar, right? They seem to be more focused on the southern border.
Well, we need that fentanyl, don't we?
Yeah, right. And so
you
I
mean
guess
we're more comfortable with white immigration than black and brown immigration? Color me shocked.
I know, right? So, right, there's a racist component to it, but I guess to me, and this is why I oftentimes rail on wokeness, is because whether it's left-wing woke or right-wing woke, both are, I would define woke in this regard as weaponizing the accusation of racism to basically silence or censor questions or criticisms or concerns. So if you're saying, hey, wait a second, I think killing babies is wrong, it's like the right-wing woke will say you're an anti-Semite. You're a racist. Where it's like, wait, I'm just saying stop killing babies.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll just call you a racist for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's similar to if, maybe, like, for example, if the Martha's Vineyard crowd would accept all the migrants there, then it would be harder to call them hypocrites. And you'd be like, well, okay, gee, I guess we've all got to take one for the team. And honestly, I do kind of feel that you ever heard that song, Love Me, I'm a Liberal?
Of course, we've talked about it.
Oh, yeah, we've talked about it, right?
Sure.
And so, right, the shadiest of all, of all political is the liberal, he says, and he comes from the leftist perspective. He's like, because a liberal is someone who's 10 degrees to the left of center when everything is fine, but 10 to the degrees of the right of center when it affects them personally. And that's basically what we're getting at, is why is one group allowed to it's okay for them to reject something or become reactionary or just be in favor of policies that they think help them, and be against policies that they think hurt them or work against them. I'm of the opinion that we should spend for example, I think the first thing, everyone should have medical insurance. Everyone should have at least the option for the public option. And everything else, but the Democrats don't want to do that. In fact, Biden said he would veto it, and that's when he was running for president. The time when he's supposed to lie about that thing and leave it ambiguous. He was like, no. I will not give people health care. But that's the type of thing, healthcare and education, I think, is what should be offered to people. And it's only a pretty recent thing. Like when Bernie Sanders was asked in 2016 about immigration and open borders, Bernie Sanders said that the idea of having open borders was a Koch brothers trick, because the people like the Koch brothers want open borders because they want basically super cheap labor, which is obviously a big part of letting people flood in. But then you also have this other weird stuff where you have the Zionist organizations that have, I should send you some of these clips where they're openly talking about how they're using this immigration thing to kind of mess with the domestic populations of many countries. And this is something that's difficult to talk about, but I'm just saying, again, Bernie Sanders, when he ran in 2016, was saying, no, open borders that's not something we should do, because that's something that the Koch brothers want, and certain big business scumbags want that. But they're going to present it like, oh, they're being humanitarian. And that's part of the big grift, like someone like Bill Gates will put so much time and effort into philanthropy, but really that's like a cover, it's a PR cover. And the term for these people are philanthropaths, people who use that as a cover, which is something like the Rockefellers used to do, that when their name became so sullied, then they put enough money into charitable works and got to remake their PR. But really there's this various forms of good cop, bad cop that go on, and both sides get to pretend they're good cop and the other one's bad cop, and then they switch depending on the issue. But really, they're both part of it, and they're both like Keir Starmer in UK, said that, this open border thing was a conservative plan.
Well, if it gets you votes, it is, right? I mean, it's like, if it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. But if it's a big deal, then it's a big deal, Because I don't give a shit about open borders or whatever. People can go wherever the fuck they want. But yeah, controlling those invisible lines is like a great way to sometimes get people on your side. Like you can either say, no, people should be able to blah, 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 or no, we got to stop them. And then you can see if it's a good like voting issue. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this is getting people riled up. Like, great. Okay. Yeah. Let's keep, I think you're like the wokeness thing you're talking about. You're looking for any topic that will trigger people. And then okay, we found it. All right, it's AI. It's AI now. Okay, great. It's open borders. It's Epstein. It's you try to find whatever makes you think, like in the stock market, how they rotate through the sectors. It's like, right, it's quantum computing now, and then that'll die off. It'll go back to precious metals, and then that's gone. And so you're constantly hunting for the thing that's like hot.
Yeah.
The hot button topic. Yeah, because it's like, oh, no more immigration. Like, oh shit, there's nobody to pick strawberries. Bring in the immigration quick, it's like, oh shit, like I was just saying that to get your vote. It's not actually about it happening or not, And we see that a lot with the Trump stuff, that it's we solved the war. Like, will that pump the market tomorrow? Okay, awesome. By the way, the war is still on, and that the statement as completely divorced from reality, that the statement is like how you're riling people up or controlling the news cycle or getting people on your side or not on your side. And that it doesn't actually have to be in relationship to reality. Like, we're going to hunt down all the pedophiles, except we're all part of that group. So like, we're actually not going to do that, but it might make you vote for us. Or feel like you're right, or feel like you're on the right side of history or something.
Yep. Well, and so open borders, which honestly, I'm not someone that, like, let's put it this way. I'm not someone that falls into the racist aspect of these things on either side of the discussion. But I do, what I think is, it's not a perfect analogy, but I think one way to maybe look at it is if you live in your home with your family, maybe you're willing to, like, all right, and there are homeless people in your city. How many homeless people are you willing to bring into your home? How many? And again, the thing is that we're all human beings. We're all flawed. We all have issues. We all have trauma. We all have parts of us or things that make it so that we, like having like the person that's attracted to minors but hasn't done anything about it, and they're a good person and they're trying so hard and they know that they have this problem. They've never acted on it, but they're aware that they have this problem. That doesn't mean they're a bad person, but it's not necessarily someone you want babysitting your kids. And we don't say that person is a bad person for not wanting that person to babysit their kids.
Yes, because you get life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and free will. Apparently.
And apparently. And I guess, and again, this is why if I was drunk, I would just be blazing through these thoughts instead of right now, I'm like walking on eggshells, trying not to sound like a monster. Where I'm like, I know I'm not a monster. I'm just trying to talk about something that's a very complicated thing to talk about. That if you're just purely dogmatically left-wing or right-wing, then it's very clear cut that it's like, again, the Democrats, not that long ago, you can find speeches by Bernie Sanders, by Obama, by Hillary, by Bill Clinton, by Biden, of all these people basically saying in substance what Trump says about the border. About, maybe they don't use the word wall, maybe some of them use the word fence instead of wall, but it's mostly a semantic difference that in substance, they're ultimately all have these big speeches but no one was calling Obama or Hillary a racist for this. But I'm just saying there's certain dogmas according to groupthink, and ultimately what I would describe as a cult, being in a cult, because you cannot question the thing that your cult refuses to question. Like, I can't go to my family, whatever, let's say it's a holiday and be with all my family. I can say what my thoughts on Israel, but if I do, I'm going to get, a strong response from people, a big backlash. And everyone knows my thoughts on these matters. But I'm just saying some things are third rail topics. And if you're conservative or if you're liberal, you have to toe the line. And if you try to give a nuanced, balanced approach, that's when it's like, you better not make a single fucking mistake. Because if you don't dot a single I or cross a single T, that's all that's going to be, presented is that one I you didn't dot or that T you didn't cross. Whereas if you just do the standard conservative or standard liberal thing, then it's just allowed. But then it's like tricky when it's like, wait, all these people who are the paragons of liberalism, again, like Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, they've all said these things that were, would now be considered far right wing. But when they said it, it wasn't considered far right wing. It was just considered reasonable, standard boilerplate answers on immigration, and that there's a certain way to do it the right way, and then there's a way where people try to get around that. And honestly, I don't care about the law or like, that's breaking the law, so now that's illegal. It's more, for example, that's why I liken it to your household and how many like homeless people are you going to invite to live in your home? Kind of like, I think part of the issue is people can be whipped up into an emotional frenzy where they're going to demand that other people do something that they themselves are not willing to do. And that's where I think it gets really tricky, because most people are voting for things to happen. Not all people, because there are some people that are the exception to the rule of what I'm saying. But most people are getting very worked up about things they would not be walking that walk themselves. They would not be. It's like, all right, then, like, please, like, that's why to me it's like, all right, you want the U.S. to go and fight Iran, and you're like some politician, kind of like Michael Moore did in Fahrenheit 9/11. So he goes to all these senators and congressmen and we go, all right, so you support invading Iraq? And they're like, yes. And he's like, okay, so here, will you sign your child up to go and be sent to the front lines? And they're all like, no fucking way. So that's what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The people that want to sign up others to go fight in a war that they themselves and their own children, they're not going to sign them up for it. And that's a pretty low-hanging fruit example.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, well, how many immigrants or homeless people are you going to bring into your house, and are you going to support? And because I'm honestly, if someone wants to do that, I'll fucking applaud them. But I guess what I'm getting at is like, once we start trying to make demands that other people do what we're not willing to do ourselves, I think it gets really problematic.
Of course.
And I don't think people are thinking about it that way. They just have been whipped up into a frenzy emotionally. Right.
Yes.
And they're not thinking about, wait, what do you actually, you're demanding that these people do something that totally goes against what they want to do or their comfort zone or what they feel safe doing. Now, we might have a whole bunch of reasons that, and sometimes something like racism or xenophobia or whatever might become relevant. But a lot of times, kind of like with the, being against killing babies and then being called an anti-Semite, and that's why I knew the woke thing, like when it was going so hardcore, like say, like during George Floyd or something, I was like, oh my God, I'm like, how is this going to work out when it comes to Israel? And I remember thinking, I felt like I was saying it to people. I was like, wait till this issue circles back to Israel, and then we're going to see the end of woke. And Israel was the end of woke, because it was the completion of the circle, and now all of a sudden, but that's why it's funny to me, because a lot of friends I have that are woke, that are very into the pro-Palestinian side, they don't understand how, because they just see that a lot of the people that they're allied with are also allied for the Palestinians, but they're not putting two and two together to see how, don't you see the way you were so willing to censor and punish and take away people's livelihood just because you felt like what they were doing or saying offended you, or you construed it or perceived it as racist, like that justified you taking away their First Amendment right and punishing them and not allowing them to be protected by the First Amendment right. And it's like, but now you're getting censored and you're getting, potentially blacklisted, and your, ability to make a living either taken away or undermined, and you don't like it. And but they're saying they're doing it because they're claiming that what you're doing is racist, and they're like, but it's different. And I'm like, well, yeah, nothing's the same, but it's like, live by the sword, die by the sword. That's why you basically, if you're not willing to call a spade when your little cult or group think is in favor of it, then like, why are you expecting the other side to do it when it turns against you and the things you feel strongly about?
Yeah, everybody wants to kill somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's the lie we got sold.
Yeah.
That if you identify who the bad people are and kill them, everything will be great. And it's obvious that sounds so dumb to say right now. It's because our prefrontal cortex is on. So first step, get somebody's prefrontal cortex off by triggering them emotionally or with survival, and then point them in the direction of the people you want to kill. And they'll do it. We'll kill to survive.
Right. So which brings me to the second thing I want to talk about is like, what role does morality play in real decision? Okay, so what role does morality really play?
Almost zero. If the prefrontal cortex is on, plenty. That means you're writing a philosophy paper. But if your prefrontal cortex is off, then zero.
And so, and honestly, I think that this is something
that's Nietzsche, beyond good and evil,
Yeah. And I think that this is something that we need to have more discussions about and a better understanding about, because this is the type of thing that makes it so that, where one people divided by a common language, where that morality. All right, so let's say your house gets infested with, I don't know, bed bugs. You just kill those motherfuckers.
Of course.
You're not like, wait, what about the plight of the bed bug? You're not saying, well, and then someone comes out and teaches a college course on the trauma of bed bugs, so that now when your house gets infested with bed bugs, you can't kill them. You have to go all carrot, no stick with the bed bugs. It'd be something that you'd be like, come on, like, this is ridiculous. Let's just kill these bed bugs. Like, so what is it? When does something become moral? When does it that, like, but obviously we go, oh, bed bugs, who cares? They're just fucking bed bugs. They're disgusting. And they're, you know what I'm saying? You turn off your heart to this way of life. You know, or like how we talk about every time you take a shower, like UG Krishnamurti, then you're going to be killing millions and billions of bacteria and thing. It's like, at what point do we draw the line and be like, no, guys, we can't take showers anymore? Or like, or sorry, guys.
Well, even just being alive, there's a constant battle going on at our skin level. We're killing, there's things trying to kill us and we're killing them. Like, we always have pneumonia in the back of our throat. It's only once we get old enough and can't fight it off that it becomes what's known as the silent killer, and takes out a lot of really old people who don't have any other issues, but they're getting so old that their system can't fight off the pneumonia infection anymore, and then that's what ends up killing them. So it is a delicate balance always between kill or be killed. That's what's always happening.
Right.
It is already happening. It's the idea that we're sold that we can somehow escape it and live in some utopia where there's no more suffering, that we can be in pleasure 100% of the time, going all day, every day, as UG also would say.
Right.
So we're sold that there's an image. If you'll just do this, if you'll just be a Christian, if you'll just be American, if you'll just kill these people over here, it's possible to get to a utopia where everything is perfect. And there's no more of this balance of death and life. You won't have to experience this like drain, this
unnecessary battle.
All the time. And that our ego is the thing that keeps us from feeling that. As the ego shuts off, we start having empathy and compassion for the bugs and the bed bugs and the other people and ourselves and our parents and stuff like that. But then it gets really overwhelming, because that also means because we feel their pain. Then we go, oh wow, that would suck to be a bed bug. And then all of a sudden you get squished by a giant ass 3 million times larger than you being that just comes and squishes you with their finger or something. Yeah, that would be terrible. That does suck. That is frightening. That is scary, you know.
Yeah, and it's like, well, so you're fine killing the bed bug much smaller than you, but you have a problem when some giant thing comes and squishes you, right? So there's the hypocrisy, right? And that's why on some level there's only one law, and that's might makes right.
Yes, the will to power.
Yeah, the will to power.
That's Nietzsche also. We're really just going over his Beyond Good and Evil, that instead of I'm reading it right now. Instead of knowledge, truth, free will, good, evil, in their place, he offers the will to power as an explanation of all behavior. This ties into his perspective of life, which he regards as beyond good and evil, denying a universal morality for all human beings.
Right. And he's someone that got given whatever. He's accredited with inspiring the Nazis and stuff like that.
Well, because everybody who reads philosophy is too dumb to understand it. And so you take it and you make it just like people listening to Trump or any politician. They go, see, he's saying what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You don't get it. He's just making shit up on the spot because his Israeli people told him to, or whatever. Or he's doing this to pump the stock market. It's not because he actually believes it. It's for the following effect.
Yep. That's right. But
because you can't understand philosophy. There's nothing to understand. Philosophy doesn't lead to truths being uncovered about the nature of the universe. We just realized we didn't know anything in the first place.
But
and that's super uncomfortable.
So I guess in a sense what we're trying to map out a territory of psychological or intellectual understanding of relationships, right? Whether it's humans to other humans, humans to plants, humans to animals, humans to insects, humans to the rest of life. And obviously we're very human-centric, and most people aren't going to feel too guilty about killing a bunch of bed bugs. But all right, how about cancer? How about, your child gets cancer. Are you going to be like, we can't kill the cancer? You know what I'm saying? Where does it end? And this idea of suicidal empathy, which I don't want it, would a liberal call it suicidal empathy if you say to people, sorry, your child has cancer and you cannot rid them of cancer, because you killing that cancer would be killing, taking a life, and that's not okay.
Some religious people do that.
Right?
They say this is God's will.
Yeah.
And let their kid die.
But not
that
even,
happens all the time.
But that's why on some level religion and that this is God's will becomes, I don't know, I guess to me like a bit of at least intellectually a cop-out.
Well, yeah, that's why it's used. Now I have an answer to your question, because the question you just asked is difficult. But if I believe in God, then it's really easy.
Whatever God says. Right?
Well, there's no death. Death is an illusion. There's infinite life. We got tricked. Our culture told us that there's death. There isn't. There's only death for the body. The soul is infinite and lives on. So if your kid gets cancer and dies, don't worry. That's just their body dying. You'll see them again.
Yeah. And then so that the Pope or the king or the highest priest, and you go, okay, your child is dying. That's God's will. You have to let them die. And then that person is basically like, fuck you. I'm going to save my child. It's like, but I thought it was God's will.
Sometimes, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes that becomes the way that then the person can deal with it, because they go with it all the time. You know what I mean? So it's like, not all the time, but a lot of the time, right? So because it's really useful for this framework that we're talking about. It's a way out of this framework, as opposed to just, I don't know, which is that's the most uncomfortable, but the most truthful position a human can be in.
Right.
Is there life after death? I don't fucking know. But do I want to know? Yes, that would help me deal with living on a prison planet a lot easier.
Yeah, right.
If I could just know that. So I'm going to choose to hope that, have faith in that there is a ever-loving God that has created souls, and that we're just trapped here in a physical body for a short amount of time, and that everything is actually fine. The war has already been won. Jesus already won the war with his angel army. He won against all the demons, and everything is actually fine, but that the demonic forces are going to try to test me, and make me lose hope, lose faith, lose love, lose compassion, lose that. And so I'm going to resist that and remember the ultimate universal truth. Instead of just staying in the, I don't know. We just don't want that so badly.
Yeah, because we're so fucking deathly afraid of uncertainty.
Because if you talk to your dad about Israel-Palestine and he said, you know what, Josh, I've been thinking about this, I really don't know who's right and who's wrong, you would be like, oh my God, something amazing has happened, Yeah. You'd be like, holy crap, like, how did this happen? Because what's more than likely to happen is a human will just switch back and forth really hard. We'll go from one side to the other really hard. If we start to feel like, oh, we were wrong in this area, okay, then I'm just going to go back. I'm going to go I'm going to go 180 degrees the other way.
Yeah.
We're more likely to flip-flop than just go right into the middle and go, I don't freaking know.
Yeah.
Neither side makes any fucking sense. And in fact, each side depends on the other to derive its meaning, i.e. deconstruction. This is Jacques Derrida, that words, thoughts, language, ideas are all dualistic. They depend on its opposite for existence. You don't have a God without a devil.
You don't have night without day.
Right. All language, thoughts, systems, everything is dualistic. It's built on the underlying assumption that the opposite already exists. So like the thunderous silence is when some guy goes to the Buddha and asks him, is there a God? And the Buddha doesn't answer. It's called the thunderous silence. So no, yes, and no, no, because why would either of those answers help you? It won't. That's not going to solve the problem. Some dumbass telling you there's a God or telling you there isn't a God, it's not going to solve the fucking issue. The middle path, right? That's the other way of saying it. The middle path. Walk the middle path. It's not, there is no right or wrong. Don't get sucked into good and evil. The Nietzsche, now we're back to Nietzsche. Don't get sucked into that, because now you're dogmatic. Sometimes, look, sometimes it's good to kill the bed bugs. Sometimes it's not. You know, it depends. It depends.
I mean, it's if you're in your tent with your family and then a poisonous snake comes in, if you could find a way to have the exit the snake without killing it, that would be ideal.
Sure.
But what about if in the process of trying to not kill the snake, you allow it to bite one of your children, and now your children dies?
Right.
You know, one of your, and so it's like, do you now regret that, or do you not regret it because you said, well, hey, I stayed true to these ideals that I should not take a life. Thou shalt not kill, even if there's no such thing as death, so says God. On the other side of his mouth, that's the number one commandment is thou shalt not kill.
Right.
And so I shall not kill. But it's like, well, how will I eat and survive without killing?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
we just meant humans. Like, oh, okay, so anything that's not human, we can kill. It's like, yeah. But then it's like, wait a second, what if you start to become aware that these animals have feelings and emotions and suffer too? Then you're like, ooh, that makes it more complicated. It's like, well, what about when you find out that plants also have emotions and suffer too? And like, oh God.
Well, and that plasma can be alive, and that maybe everything was alive the whole time because everything was God. And it's both at the same time. And I did kill a snake once. I did kill a rattlesnake that was in my garage in Virginia. My mom saw it there, and she asked me to kill it, and I decided to, because we had my cat Matilda at that time was an indoor outdoor cat, and I knew that if I didn't kill it and that snake bit my cat and the cat died, I would feel so terrible. But even now to this day, I don't feel good or bad about it. I feel both. I feel upset that I had to do that. That snake didn't deserve to die for any reason. It hadn't attacked anybody. It was literally just chilling behind this bike, all coiled up. But it was, in terms from looking on it the other way, what if I got bit by, what if my mom or my cat or something? It's like, okay, it makes sense in that way. And that, death is an inescapable part of being alive. And in that situation, I thought about it and came up with what I thought was the best solution in that moment, as opposed to, I think, having like a sweeping rule then doesn't allow the person to, just kill all the Palestinians or something. That's a bad idea, but if Palestinians attacking me and my family, okay, maybe in that case, right? So it depends on the situation, but that there isn't going to be a right or wrong that we can consistently appeal to.
Right. And maybe the spectrum is, well, something, whether it's an animal or a human or whatever, is attacking your family, and you, like, how are you going to spend your time? Defending your family, protecting your family, preventing whatever's trying to attack it and hurt it? Or are you going to spend your time trying to understand what led to whatever is attacking your family, like whatever led it to be this way? And maybe if it's just like your family's getting attacked in the moment, you got to prioritize that. But maybe afterwards, you can, ponder more deeply what maybe that rattlesnake didn't hurt anyone. It was just chilling out by a bike, coiled.
Yep.
And then you feel that at least to some extent you feel kind of bad.
I do.
Like, yeah,
still
why
now.
did I?
It's 20 years ago, 20 years ago or something, you know? I still do now.
Yeah. Right. And so I think that makes sense that you feel that way. And it's trying to balance out these different feelings within us. And it's something that I went through, say, with Trump's first term, when a lot of like more conservative pundits or whatever, they started getting censored. And I was like, well, I don't really like these people, but you know, kind of like that saying, I might disagree with what you're saying, but I'll defend to my last breath your right to say it. And if we lose that, then whatever it is we call this liberalism or this liberal democracy or whatever it is that we say that we have that we don't have, but we keep on clinging to this, I don't know, bullshit story, because it really is a bullshit story. Like, yes, we do have democratic processes, we do have a voting system, we do have elections, but at this point, like, if you're still thinking these elections are, you know, doing much, or that they're not, like, mostly, if not completely rigged.
Yes, correct.
It's, you know, it's like, come on. It's
except when I win. Except when I win. When I win, it's
yeah, right.
Obviously correct. Like,
yeah,
just
obviously.
Yeah, cool.
You know, it's just, I guess it always just comes down to, it's like, if you're a Yankee fan, then everything the Yankees do is okay. And if the Red Sox do it, the same thing, then that's clearly terrible and must be condemned. And so it's just a way to make it so that people don't ever notice that hypocrisy or that double standard. And that's why, you know, when you look into some of the a lot of these wedge issues are things that are meant to drive the people crazy. And what was it? You're saying it's the prefrontal cortex that once you compromise that, then it's all emotional, right? Reactionary instead of more rational, logic-based thinking. And so that's the job of the controllers, is to keep us in a state of agitation like that, to where it becomes almost impossible to be, I mean, it's already pretty impossible for a human to be objective, but to the extent where us trying to talk about this the way we are won't just be perceived as, oh, these are just bleeding heart liberals, or these are heartless conservatives. But it's like, no, we're just flawed human beings attempting to talk about difficult thing that isn't just about statistics. Even though statistics can be relevant, but usually statistics are used to just pursue one's own argument, as opposed to trying to you know, kind of like, all right, you want to go send other people's kids off to war and fight your wars? Like, well, only after you've sent all your children first, and yourself and all your children first. So if you're not willing to do it, then fuck off and leave my kids alone. And that's why the whole thing of like melding or merging the US and Israeli military is going to make it like harder. So it's going to make it so that a lot of our kids might get drafted for this future war. And there's not going to be that much we can do about it to stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And then at some point, most all U.S. citizens are going to be saddled with this debt, you know, and people like, you know, Larry Fink from BlackRock will say, hey, we're building these data centers whether you like it or not. And not only that, all of you are going to pay for it. And everyone's like, what? And he's like, yeah, all of your retirement funds, all of your 401ks, you know, all of your holdings in the stock market, like this is going to be used towards that, you know? And if you don't like it, too fucking bad, you know, and at some point the music's going to stop and then the bill will have to be paid for this giant, you know, multi-decade or multi-century murder party that we call empire and democracy, you know. and then every man, woman, and child that's alive will owe their portion of that debt, which now is whatever, close to 40 trillion, and is just going to keep on going up and up. And it's like, you don't like it? Too fucking bad. You know, you don't have a say in this. And to bring it back to the immigrant thing, most of the thing that's going on, one thing that definitely bothers me about the immigrant thing is that in my mind, this is just the military industrial complex has created these chaotic situations in all these different parts of the world. And then we light their countries on fire. And then the people from those countries have to flee their country because the empire has decided to go light their country on fire. And then they have to flee for their lives with their kids. And then they'll go wherever the fuck will take them. And they're not bad people at all. They're just people whose lives got destroyed by this empire and this war machine. And now, you know, the same people that are the oligarchs that create these wars and profit from these wars, instead of just like what they should do in a more perfect world is like, all right, a certain amount of your profits you're going to set aside and you're going to use that money to house and feed and shelter, you know, all these people whose lives you've destroyed. But they're not going to do that. What they're doing is they're just dumping those people in some of the countries that are the, you know, the nation states of the more direct nation states of the empire, that 99.9% of people in those countries had nothing to do with the war and creating the war, and they were just normal people just living, and now that burden gets passed on to them. And then when the people react and respond in a self-defensive way, they get called names and get called racists and whatnot. You know, like this guy Tommy Robinson that I've brought up before. That's this guy from the UK that's like a big anti-immigrant activist. And he's like a total fucking Zionist. It's just one of these things where it's like, all right. And honestly, I'm kind of the opinion that, like, I'm open to that at the tippy top. It's mostly, or a lot of it is Zionism, but this is an empire that Zionism, in my opinion, Zionism was used to further British imperialism. And it was what Zionism was, is like one of the first forms of wokeism, where you took a people, you know, that had been so thoroughly traumatized, and you sent them all to one place, and you said, now all of you, this is now your identity is all about this thing. And then now we're going to use that thing that you identify with and your trauma, and we're going to exploit that to further the aims of empire. And the people don't even know it. They just think they're trying to defend Judaism, you know, and look at all the horrible things that have happened to Jews. And they don't realize, like my dad, I brought up to him when I said that definition of, you know, he thinks Zionism is a homeland for Jews. I say what Zionism really is using Jews as cannon fodder and frontline, you know, people you place on the front line to further the aims of British and Anglo-American empire. And when I said that to him, he was like, for like 1 second, he was like, huh, like, I hadn't really thought about that. You know? But you know, this is something so deeply emotional to him that for him to see through that, it's just going to be so difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that's the challenge that faces us, is how do we get, like Glenn Greenwald was on with Megyn Kelly recently, and like flipped her on Israel. Like, she was a little bi-curious before, but he flipped her, and he got her to change her mind. And I don't know, I just think like,
well, I think the flippening is easy. The hard part is getting people to stay in the I don't know space. Because once you flip, you're just dogmatic, but in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
You switched them from good to evil or evil to good or something.
Yeah.
So there's still no actual real thought there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no like, wait, let me think deeply about this situation, because while it may have some similarities to previous situations, each situation I'm in is completely different and new.
Yeah.
Because once you decide you can kill all the snakes, you stop asking yourself, is it poisonous?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really important.
Mm-hmm.
Because it might be a rat snake who eats your rats.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, I like this guy.
Yeah. You can stay.
you I like.
Yeah, you I like. I'll kill the rest. Fuck you. Fuck
and
you.
I've seen rat snakes.
Cool.
They're big ass. That's a big ass snake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
You know, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Try to catch a rat snake in a box one time. That one was also in my garage in Virginia. I was chasing that rat snake around the garage with like a broom and a box, you know, and I knew it wasn't dangerous, but boy, was my heart pumping, you know.
Oh yeah.
And that thing was motoring, man. And then it found a crack, which I don't know if that's how it got in or what, because it was a, you know, it was a legit garage that had you know, doors and shit like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But it eventually found this crack on the floor in the cement, a crack in the cement. Mm-hmm. And it must have been, oh my God, like a 1/4 inch or something wide. I mean, just nothing, but that thing squeezed itself into there and was out of there.
Life finds a way, huh?
I know, geez.
Yeah.
My cat. Hey, why you putting your nose on me? It's a cold, wet nose. It's a cold, wet nose.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that's the whole idea of the population control and the whole survival of the fittest, you know, that concept, you know, the Thomas Malthus, you know, that there's not enough life support to, you know, for the growing population. But then like 150 years later, Bucky Fuller is like, I beg to disagree.
Yeah, like that was a fucking lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we're still operating under that. That's the whole issue with immigration. We don't have enough resources to take in everyone. We need a process.
Mm-hmm. And that was something that was interesting about when Kurt Metzger was interviewing Professor Jiang, and he's like, yeah, China's not going through this because China's not playing this game. China's not going to let, you know, the Epstein network, because the Epstein network is what's behind the immigration. You know, this military industrial complex, financial industrial complex, technical industrial complex is what's behind this thing. And and it wants civil war. You know, it wants to erase borders. It wants to create, the technates, these different regions, that the 3-block world that they've been working on since the late 1800s. Which to me, again, it's like, that's why I try to, when I talk to like right wingers, I try to talk more about the aspects of, like, don't fall into the hatred of these immigrants, because these immigrants, for the vast majority of them, are just people whose countries got set on fire. Like, it's like your house got set on fire and you run out, and then your neighbors are like, you better get the fuck back in your house. And it's like, what do you mean?
Do you ever see the 30 Days episode? This was a long time ago with Morgan Spurlock or whatever. And basically he had somebody who was super anti-immigrant, and actually like lived in Texas, and like was one of those people that like volunteers to like patrol the border with like a gun in their truck and stuff like that. So he basically had him go live with an immigrant family for 30 days. And at one point they go across the border together so they can show him where they used to live. And once they go there and he sees it, he's like, oh, I get why they left.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And like, honestly, it's like, they're like so nice to him and they're cooking him like Mexican food every night and shit like that. And he's like, oh, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah.
It was awesome. Right? It was probably the best one. It was probably the best one of that series. It was excellent. I love it. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. Oh, you hate Palestinians? Cool. Go live with them for 30 days.
Yeah. Right.
If you can maintain it for 30 days, go live with a family for 30 days, have them cook for you, hang out with their kids, play with their kids, listen to their music, see what their daily life is like. You won't be able to maintain it. No way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Or we'll take, some Israeli settlers, put them into Gaza with the Palestinian family.
30 days. Then
there you go. And then it's like, all right, now you need them to survive. And now you're going to experience what the IDF does to them.
Right.
And you're going to be like, wait a second, guys, we can't do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, and that's what we don't want, right? I think that's part of the I wanted to say political game, but I think it's part of the knowledge game. Is things are like this. The end. Things are like this. You know? Okay, cool. Things are like this. Got it. All right, I'm moving on now. As opposed to sometimes things are like this, and sometimes things are like the other thing, and then sometimes it's a third thing altogether, and sometimes we don't know what the hell's going on. Is this plasma alive? I don't fucking know. But we don't want to stay in the I don't know. We don't want to stay there. That's the it is it's fear of the unknown. It's one of the most common fears that you can have in a human.
Yep.
And,
absolutely.
And so that's so scary that we'll take a flawed ideology over no ideology any day.
Yeah. Right. Will you take a flawed ideology that gives you at least some semblance of security versus something that's just the fear of the unknown and just total uncertainty and or perceived lack of security? Then most people. And that's why I do think
if I do that, I won't know who to vote for. It's like, exactly.
Yeah. And that's why, to me, I feel like the uniparty wants to do this open border thing, create this chaos, and then they, wheel out ICE, So this was all
to solve it. Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. Of course.
And the ICE response will be blamed on the Republicans. but really, it's just like one side, sets the conditions for the infestation. Then the other one comes as like, the exterminator with a heavy hand and the ham-fisted reaction, you know, but what, you know, it's, they work together, you know, and that's what's, you know, and at some point I see ice being repurposed. Yeah, you know, it'll be repurposed against the conservatives when the, you know, the Republicans, when the Democrats win, and you know, they'll name it something else, you know, and they'll say down with ICE, but then use some other force, you know, and they'll say this isn't ICE, but it totally, the president has been set, and it'll probably be like in Ukraine, where they have these vans that roam around and they try to find military age men and just go and kidnap them. I don't know if you've seen that footage. There's all this footage of these vans that go around. They'll just hop out.
Sure.
They'll try to, yeah, kidnap some guy, and then maybe he'll be with his like wife and mother, and then the wife and mother are like crying and trying to fight off the, you know, the guys from the van. It's like, that's what ICE eventually is going to be used for. You know, when we don't want our kids fighting in the war and we do X, Y, and Z to not have them, they're gonna, you know, it'll be ICE or something like ICE that'll come and round them up and be like, well, otherwise you're an anti-Semite if you're not down with this. You know, you're a racist of some sort if you're not down with this. You're not sufficiently patriotic. You know, and to me, this is, I mean, it seems so obvious that this is where this goes, or at least until AI and robotics can be used to replace the human soldier, which, right, it does seem like we're approaching that faster and faster. And that human cops will be replaced by robotic ones.
Of course.
And then once you have a robot and an AI system that has zero empathy for humans or zero care about humans, they look at us like bed bugs, then you know, that's what I think that a lot of this is really going towards. And that's what I do think there is some fucking urgency that unless we like set aside our differences and find a way to work together with people we disagree on a lot of things about, but we all agree that we don't want this fucking slave system matrix to be fully put into place, because once that happens, you know, I don't see what would be stopping, you know. It'd be like 2001 when Hal is like, sorry, Dave, you're not allowed back into the cockpit. You know, it's like, Hal, what are you doing? I'm ready. You can open the cockpit. It's like, sorry, Dave. And I mean, because right now we still have humans we're working with, as far as we know. And without that, it's gonna get weird. It's gonna get really, really fucking weird. And you know, and everyone's gonna be pointing fingers, and they'll all say, you did nothing when they came for us, so why should we do anything when they come for you? And most people don't want to think about this stuff because they're like, this is depressing.
Right.
But yeah, it is depressing. It is fucking depressing, but we got to talk about it because this shit's happening. You know, and right now we have politicians that don't give a fuck, because it's just like with Trump with Iran. It's like whether they've Epsteined him and they have Epstein blackmail on him, or they just, you know, pay him off and get him in on all these deals. So now he has every incentive to just promote whatever the fuck they want. And he doesn't care. You know, just like when he said, when he was asked about inflation and whether it's hurting people and whether normal people can can survive now. He was basically like, yeah, I don't really think about that much.
Of course. Why would you?
Yeah.
That's the empathy thing we're talking about. That's the empathy thing. As you start to feel other people's pain, it becomes harder to make decisions. It becomes harder to determine what's good and evil. You stop. The knowledge breaks down. As the ego breaks down, knowledge depends on the ego. So the knowledge goes away with it. And so you enter into the I don't know space. You just enter into that psychedelic space where you go, whoa, like that. Like Neo in the Matrix. You just go, whoa.
Yeah, right.
That's it. That's all you can do. Like if you go into the DMT space or something, you just go, whoa.
Exactly.
It's way too complex for thought to capture it. Or Yuji would say that thought creates a parallel process that runs along with life. It attempts to capture and contain and reflect reality.
Right.
But it's still just a painting of the real thing. I don't care how good the painting is. It might be photorealistic, but it's just one frame. It's never going to be the actual thing.
Exactly. It's just going to be a replica or a simulation or a token form.
Simulacra and simulation. Yeah. God, we're hitting so many fucking philosophical points.
Right.
I might need to call it here soon.
Okay.
Been down for a while, but it was awesome. What a great one, man. Dude. My gosh. Let's get I think let's get Kurt Metzger on here or something, Yeah,
I would love that.
I think there's plenty of people we could try and get on, and they aren't going to even respond. I think we got a chance with that guy.
I think we might have a chance. I think he'd dig what we do, And, and I know that Frau recorded a song of one of his friends. Like Kurt Metzger has this partner of his, guy Kyle Dunnigan.
Okay.
And they did a show together, like online, and they were like partners with it. And I know that Frau was that buddy David.
Yeah.
And David is in that circle. And I guess David's friends with Kyle Dunnigan. And
well, if you think of it next time you're around, see if anybody's willing to send an email or some crap like that. But otherwise, I think, we would just figure out, get some type of contact information, or just on his YouTube or something like that. Just try a couple things and see what's up.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will be in Tennessee next Wednesday. Okay. Would there be any chance you could move it to Friday, like the same time, but Friday next week?
Next Friday? Yeah, I can do next Friday.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Because I'll be back on Thursday evening. So I'll definitely be able to do Friday then.
Okay. So let's do Friday then.
Cool. Awesome.
Awesome, man.
Great talking with you as always. I'll get this up online and send you the link whenever I get around to it.
Awesome, man. Great talking to you, Dogon.
You too, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Later, buddy.
Okay. Later. Bye.